true story, our neighbor is on his 5th shingle roof. Our cheap old metal roof lasted 22 years. And that was really inexpensive. Now let's break some stuff. If you're watching this, you may be thinking about a metal roof for your house. I need to ask you, do you want a water shedding roof or do you want a waterproof roof? If you're thinking like, what did he just say? You'll want to watch this video. I'm going to show you the differences between roofing materials. Then we're going to go through all the steps in the process that goes into putting on a new roof. Most importantly, why should I choose a waterproof roof? Remember my friend William? You probably remember him from the Amish store we helped him sell. I asked him, what are you going to do next? He said, I'm going to do some building. And I told him, I want to be your first customer. Now, I don't know if that was the case, but I will say I'm his biggest fan. Watch the workmanship that went into putting on a new roof on our cabin. And thank you, Jared at Howard Metals, for delivering this package so quickly. Everything went super smooth, and Jared asked me to do a video of our new roof. He refers William a lot as well. Glad to help both of these friends out. So if you're watching this, why am I holding this hatchet? If you're watching this, you're probably thinking about putting a new metal roof on your house. And congratulations, I love it. And maybe you're trying to figure out if it's cost prohibitive or cost comparative. So I'm going to work over the cost with you. But most importantly, how about that for a finger pointing at you, right? Most importantly, we're going to talk about the quality of different materials you have as an option. If you compare metal to clay tile, wood shake, concrete tile, or whatever, metal's going to be much less. If you're compared to cheap asphalt shingles, it's going to be more. Now, compared to some of these fancier 3D shingles, like this one here, it's going to be pretty comparable. Let's think about asphalt shingles. Even the 20 to 30-year-old shingles never live up to those numbers. Now figure in hail or wind, and you're replacing that roof every 6 to 10 years. If you get 15 years out of a roof, that's amazing. So our neighbor, true story, our neighbor is on his 5th shingle roof. Our cheap old metal roof lasted 22 years. And that was really inexpensive. Factoring in all of that, total cost of ownership for a metal roof is hard to argue. Shingles are going to be in that $4 to $5 a square foot range. Our 24 gauge standing seam concealed fastener metal roof was less than $4 a square foot. Now you got to add in the trim and you'll be in that $7 to $8 square foot range. And a lot of people will say, you know, they whack you for the trim, but they roll that metal out in a roll. It really comes, it looks like a huge roll of toilet paper, and they just let it sail, right? They can cut it every inch for you, whatever you want on the inch. This stuff is in 10-foot sections, and it has to all be done by hand. That's where the labor comes in with this stuff, and that's what brings up the price. So I hate to say it, but you can usually figure out, in my experience, I'm not a roofer, you know, I just do these projects from time to time. It about doubles the cost. Now let's add in the fact that a metal roof is very energy efficient because they reflect a ton of the sun's heat in the summer. There's a thing called the solar reflective index. So you got to look at that. Even a black metal roof has an SRI. But the Galvalume, the one that we put in, that's a really reflective. That's even more reflective than white. So you got to look into all this stuff. Add in durability, longevity, hail and wind resistance, Class A fire rating. And the most important part is you're not having to replace that shingle roof after shingle roof after shingle roof. 10 to 15 years versus 50 years or more of service, it's just math, right? Now let's break some stuff. All right, now we certainly don't need a hatchet for this because, you know, we can do that. We can just tear this roof because this is not, it's not even, it's a shame that they do this, right? So whatever. And I know it's one of the most popular roofs anywhere, right? I mean, you know, I don't even need a hatchet for this thing. So screw that. I know I look like Sanford and Son, but it was out in the grass all summer. If you look at the other video that I did about how to install this roof, you're going to want to see that for sure. But this is the 29 gauge. This is called 5V 29 gauge. And then we'll give it a... Okay, I can go through it with a. There you go. Can you see underneath? Does that work? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, so that's a 29 gauge. Well, that stuff is really cheap. You can get that for, I don't know, I think we paid maybe $1 a foot for it or something. I'm sure it's more than that now, but it lasted for 22 years. But, you know, it wasn't great. It looked cool, but then it rusted and all this other stuff. And remember, that's galvanized, not galvalume. They do some kind of aluminum thing with the galvalume. It's in the name. Okay. So this is a 26 gauge, which is a much better panel. This is trim, much better panel. And like Howard's, you know, locally here we have Howard's Metal. We love those guys. They treat you like $1 million, and they're competitive price. And when they say they're going to deliver, and it's just easy, right? It's easy doing business with them. But the 26 gauge, they make what they call a PBR panel, and it looks like, well, it looks like that. It's probably dirty, but that's different panel. And you can get 26 gauge any profile. They might have to make it for you. And now let's see if we can hatchet this up. All right, did we go through? Yeah, there we went. We went through on that one too. Okay, so I'm not saying 26 gauge is flimsy. In fact, you certainly can't tear it like you can them stupid shingles. And, you know, I'll wind up slicing myself trying to prove a point that I can't tear it. But anyway, 26 gauge, magnificent. 29 gauge is what you see on most of those ag buildings, like a horse barn or even our barn up there. Well, ours is 26 gauge as well. But 29 gauge is real popular. It's like $1.25 a square foot. But then you got those thousands of holes in there. Don't do the thousands of holes. Do the concealed fastener, all right? Now, this is the 24 gauge, and this is significantly, now this is that's the standing seam, see right there? And you can see how that goes. And then it also has these little striations in them to give it more rigidity. But this stuff is crazy because you can't even bend it. It's like, it's a huge difference between 29 and 26, and then as huge of a difference between 26 and 24. So once you feel it, you'll get it. You'll understand. And if your roofer says, oh, well, I'm going to charge you extra for 24, you need a new roofer. Yeah, it's a little bit more work, but you know, what do you want me to do? Call you a ambulance? All right, now this. You're going to dent it. Now, my hatchet is sharper than a hailstone. Even hailstones up to the size of a baseball are not going to dent this roof. I'm just telling you, you're not going to have any damage. You know, hailstones are going to be bigger than that, and they're not going to be this forceful. I don't care if they're coming from the sky. Anyway, you're not going to have any damage on this stuff. So it's a 50-year product with no damage. Buy nice or buy twice. Sounds like your cymbals. All right, let's get out of here. And our 24 gauge standing seam can field. It about doubles the cost. In that $4 to $5 a square foot range, and do the concealed fastener. All right. Now, and thank you, Jared from Howard Metals, and thank you, Jared at Howard Metals. I'm going to show you the different. You'll want to watch this video. Bing, chilling. I love you especially because you watched through this whole video. I highly recommend you look at this next video, which I think you'll really like too.